Marcus Kane stepped off the transport ship onto the gleaming metal platform of Station Nexus 7. The massive structure orbited the capital world of the Galactic Empire, its crystalline towers reaching toward the stars like frozen lightning. Around him, dozens of alien species moved with purpose through the corridors. Tall, graceful Etherians with their silver skin glided past, while the insectoid Creeth clicked their way toward the military recruitment centers. Marcus had traveled 3 months to reach this place. Earth had only recently joined the Galactic Empire, and humans were still a curiosity to most alien species. The Empire's military leaders had heard stories about human combat effectiveness during the border wars with the savage clans. Now, they wanted to see what these strange bipeds could really do. The recruitment officer was a Vorthak, one of the Empire's most respected warrior species. Standing 8 feet tall with thick armored hide and 4 powerful arms, Commander Zekth looked down at the human with barely concealed skepticism. His vertical pupils narrowed as he studied Marcus's file on his holographic display. Human designation Marcus Kane, Zekth rumbled in his deep voice. Age 28 standard cycles. Previous military experience with Earth's Terran Defense Force. No formal combat training by Empire standards. The commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Tell me, small one, why should the Empire waste resources training you when we have proven warriors from 100 worlds? Marcus met the alien's gaze without flinching. Because you need someone who can win fights that others can't. Several nearby recruits from other species turned to stare. A hegemony warrior with chitinous plates covering his torso laughed, the sound like grinding stone. Bold words from such a soft creature, the insectoid said. Humans have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced strength. What could you possibly offer? Flexibility, Marcus replied calmly. Every species I've met so far fights the way their biology dictates. You use your natural advantages, but that also means you have natural limitations. Humans adapt. Commander Zekth's forearms crossed over his chest. Adaptation means nothing in real combat. The Empire's greatest champions have defeated thousands of enemies. The legendary Vorthak warrior Krathzon has over 3,000 confirmed kills. The Etherian psychic blade master Veltar has eliminated entire squads with his mind alone. What have you accomplished, human? Marcus was quiet for a moment. His service record was classified, and Earth's military hadn't shared the full details of human combat operations with their new alien allies. I've done what needed to be done, he said finally. The recruitment area fell silent. Other aliens sensed the sudden tension in the human's voice, though they couldn't understand its significance. Zekth leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over Marcus. Impressive confidence, when the Vorthak commander said, but confidence without proof is merely arrogance. You will undergo standard Empire combat assessment. If you fail, you return to your homeworld. If you succeed, you may be granted the honor of serving in our military forces. Marcus nodded. What does the assessment involve? Single combat against our training automatons, Zekth explained. These machines are programmed with the fighting styles and capabilities of every known hostile species in the galaxy. They do not hold back and they do not show mercy. Many recruits are seriously injured. Some die. When do I start? Zekth's mandibles clicked again, this time in what was definitely amusement. Eager to prove yourself? Very well. Report to Training Complex Delta at the next cycle period. You will face 3 opponents in succession. Defeat all 3, and you advance to tactical assessment. Marcus was escorted to temporary quarters in the station's recruit section. The room was small but functional, with a sleeping alcove, basic hygiene facilities, and a food synthesizer programmed with various alien cuisines. He selected something resembling Earth protein and vegetables, though the texture was slightly off. As he ate, Marcus reviewed what he knew about Empire military doctrine. Their forces were incredibly advanced by human standards, with energy weapons, personal shields, and combat armor that could withstand tremendous punishment. But they fought with predictable patterns based on their species' natural abilities. The Vorthaks relied on overwhelming strength and their extra limbs. The Etherians used psychic abilities and precision strikes. The Creeth coordinated like a hive mind, overwhelming enemies with numbers and perfect synchronization. Each style was effective, but each also had weaknesses that a creative opponent could exploit. Marcus had spent years studying alien combat footage captured during humanity's first contact wars. He'd learned to think like his enemies, to anticipate their moves, and to turn their strengths against them. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Training Complex Delta. The facility was enormous, with multiple combat arenas surrounded by observation galleries. Hundreds of recruits from dozens of species were training simultaneously, their various combat styles creating a chaotic symphony of movement and energy discharges. Zect waited in the main arena, along with several other high-ranking officers. Word had spread about the human recruit who claimed he could adapt to any fighting style. The observation galleries were packed with curious onlookers. "Your first opponent," Zect announced, "is programmed with Savage Clan combat protocols. These are the Empire's most dangerous enemies, raiders who have terrorized the outer systems for decades. The automaton will attempt to kill you. Defend yourself accordingly." The training robot that emerged from the equipment bay looked like a nightmare made of metal and death, standing 7 feet tall with razor-sharp claws and built-in energy weapons. It moved with predatory grace. Its optical sensors locked onto Marcus immediately, and tactical displays showed it analyzing his physical capabilities. Marcus was given standard Empire combat gear, energy rifle, personal shield generator, and light armor. The weapons felt foreign in his hands, heavier and more complex than human equivalents, but he'd trained with captured alien technology before. The automaton attacked without warning, moving faster than anything its size should have been able to move. Energy blasts scorched the arena floor where Marcus had been standing a split second before. The crowd in the observation galleries leaned forward, expecting to see the human overwhelmed in seconds. Instead, Marcus did something none of them expected. He dropped his rifle and charged directly at the machine. The observation galleries erupted in shocked voices as Marcus sprinted toward the combat automaton. Vorthak warriors clicked their mandibles in disbelief, while Etherian observers shared telepathic expressions of confusion. No rational being charged directly at a Savage Clan combat unit without ranged support. The automaton's targeting system struggled to process this unexpected behavior. Its programming assumed all opponents would maintain distance and engage with standard energy weapons. Marcus's aggressive approach created a tactical gap in its decision matrix, buying him precious microseconds. As the machine raised its clawed appendages to strike, Marcus slid beneath its reach and grabbed onto its leg assembly. The automaton's armor was designed to deflect energy blasts, not resist close-quarters grappling from an opponent who understood mechanical leverage points. Marcus pulled himself up the machine's frame, using its own weapon mounts as handholds. The automaton spun and thrashed, trying to dislodge him, but human flexibility allowed Marcus to maintain his grip while avoiding its attacks. His fingers found the maintenance access panel near the robot's central processor. "Impossible," whispered Commander Zect. "No species fights that way. It's completely irrational." The hegemony warrior who had mocked Marcus earlier watched in stunned silence. "He's treating it like prey," the insectoid said. "But he's the smaller creature. The tactics make no sense." Marcus had studied the automaton's specifications during his brief observation period. Empire technology was incredibly advanced, but it followed logical design principles. Every machine had access points for maintenance and repair. The challenge was reaching them while avoiding the business end of multiple weapon systems. The robot's defensive protocols weren't designed for an opponent who ignored personal safety to achieve positional advantage. Marcus managed to force open the access panel and identified the primary motor control circuits. A few precisely applied adjustments and the automaton's movement became erratic. "He's sabotaging it from the inside," an Etherian observer said to his companion. "But the radiation exposure from the power core should be lethal to most organic species." "Humans have unusual resistance to energy-based damage," Zect replied, though his voice carried uncertainty. "Their cellular structure is more adaptable than expected." The automaton crashed to the arena floor as its motor systems failed. Marcus rolled away from the wreckage and retrieved his energy rifle. The machine was still functional, its weapon systems intact, but it could no longer move effectively. A few carefully aimed shots to its sensor array ended the engagement. The arena fell silent for several seconds before scattered applause began from the observation galleries. Marcus stood over the defeated automaton, breathing heavily but uninjured. The victory had taken less than 4 minutes. "Unorthodox," Zect announced, his voice echoing through the complex, "but effective. Prepare the second opponent." The next automaton was larger and more heavily armed. Programmed with hegemony assault protocols, It carried multiple energy weapons and projected a personal shield that could stop most attacks. Its tactical systems had been updated with data from the previous engagement, making it less vulnerable to close-quarters assault. This time Marcus kept his distance, circling the machine while testing its defensive capabilities with carefully aimed shots. The automaton's shield absorbed his attacks effortlessly, while return fire forced him to use the arena's terrain for cover. The alien observers expected a prolonged engagement, but Marcus had already identified his strategy. Hegemony combat doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower and defensive superiority. They preferred to establish dominant positions and force enemies to attack their strongest points. Marcus began moving in seemingly random patterns, firing at irregular intervals from different positions. To the automaton's tactical systems, the behavior appeared chaotic and inefficient. But Marcus was actually mapping the machine's response patterns, learning how its programming interpreted threats and allocated resources. After several minutes of apparent confusion, Marcus suddenly changed tactics. Instead of attacking the automaton directly, he began targeting the arena's environmental systems. Energy blasts struck ventilation panels, lighting fixtures, and structural supports. What is he doing? An Etherian observer asked. He's wasting ammunition on irrelevant targets. Zekth's optical sensors tracked Marcus's movement pattern. He's not attacking randomly, the commander realized. He's engineering a cascade failure. The arena's emergency systems activated as damage accumulated to critical infrastructure. Automated repair drones emerged from concealed compartments to address the structural damage. The combat automaton's programming included protocols to avoid harming maintenance equipment, creating brief windows where its weapon systems were restricted. Marcus exploited these gaps with surgical precision. Each time the automaton's fire control systems paused to avoid hitting a repair drone, Marcus advanced closer to an optimal attack position. The machine's tactical programming couldn't resolve the conflict between engaging the primary threat and preserving station infrastructure. The final assault came when Marcus reached a damaged lighting panel that was sparking electrical energy. He grabbed the severed power conduit and redirected the electrical discharge toward the automaton's position. The machine's shields were designed to stop directed energy weapons, not environmental electrical hazards. The electrical surge overloaded the automaton's defensive systems, creating a brief opening in its protective barriers. Marcus's next energy blast punched through the gap and struck the machine's primary power core. The explosion that followed left twisted metal scattered across the arena floor. 2 victories, Zekth announced, though his voice carried more interest than before. The final opponent will test your ability to adapt to multiple threats simultaneously. The third automaton was actually 3 separate units operating in perfect coordination. Each was smaller than the previous opponents but armed with different weapon systems. One carried heavy energy cannons, another deployed area denial weapons, and the third specialized in rapid-fire suppression tactics. Their combined assault filled the arena with overlapping fields of fire. Most opponents would be pinned down immediately, forced to seek cover while the automatons maneuvered for killing positions. The machine's coordination was flawless, their tactical programming designed to eliminate any possibility of individual engagement. Marcus surprised everyone by running directly into the center of the arena, where all 3 firing arcs converged. The action should have been suicidal, but he threw his personal shield generator ahead of himself, programming it to maximum defensive output. The shield lasted exactly 4 seconds under the combined assault before overloading catastrophically, but those 4 seconds allowed Marcus to reach the geometric center point, where the 3 automatons' positioning created a tactical blind spot. From that position, Marcus could engage each machine individually while using the others as inadvertent cover. The automatons couldn't fire at him without risking damage to their partner units. Their perfect coordination became a liability when faced with an opponent who understood how to exploit positioning geometry. Marcus disabled each machine in sequence, using their own tactical positioning against them. The final automaton fell to a carefully placed shot that ricocheted off the arena wall and struck its rear armor plating. The observation galleries erupted in applause and confused discussion. Marcus stood surrounded by the wreckage of 6 different combat automatons, his equipment damaged but his confidence intact. Commander Zekth descended from the observation gallery to the arena floor. His expression was unreadable as he approached the human. Remarkable, the Vorthak commander said finally. Your tactics are unlike anything in our military databases. Reckless, illogical, but undeniably effective. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead. Different doesn't mean wrong. Indeed. Zekth studied the human with new interest. You advanced to tactical assessment. But first I have questions about your background. Earth's military records are incomplete regarding human combat capabilities. Commander Zekth led Marcus through the station's administrative levels to a secure briefing room. The walls were lined with tactical displays showing current Empire military operations across dozens of star systems. Maps of contested territories flickered with status updates as battles raged on distant worlds. Your performance today has attracted significant attention, Zekth said as they settled into chairs designed for multiple alien physiologies. High Command is curious about human combat doctrine. Our intelligence reports suggest your species has unusual approaches to warfare. Marcus chose his words carefully. Earth's military leadership had provided limited guidance about sharing tactical information with alien allies. Humans adapt quickly to changing circumstances, he said. We don't rely on predetermined strategies, so we observed. Zekth activated a holographic display showing footage from Marcus's arena battles. Your tactics violated every principle of rational combat theory, charging directly at superior firepower, sabotaging environmental systems, positioning yourself in concentrated crossfire zones. By all mathematical models, you should have died 3 times over. Mathematical models assume predictable behavior patterns, Marcus replied. If your enemies can calculate your next move, they can counter it. A door panel slid open, admitting 2 additional figures. The first was an Etherian female with the rank insignia of a strategic intelligence coordinator. Her silver skin seemed to shimmer with internal light, and her large eyes held depths that suggested powerful psychic abilities. The second newcomer was completely different, a crystalline being whose geometric form pulsed with contained energy. Marcus Kane, the Etherian said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in frequencies beyond human hearing. I am Coordinator Lyrillon. This is Tactical Analyst Prism 79 of the Geometric Collective. We have been reviewing your combat performance with considerable interest. The crystalline being's voice emerged from internal resonance chambers. Human tactics demonstrate chaotic variables that cannot be processed through standard predictive algorithms. Your species approaches warfare as improvisational art rather than systematic science. That's one way to put it, Marcus said. We call it thinking outside the box. Lyrillon's psychic presence touched the edges of Marcus's mind, though she couldn't penetrate human mental defenses without explicit permission. Your thoughts are unusual. Most species think in patterns we can analyze and predict. Human consciousness operates on principles we haven't encountered before. Prism 79 projected holographic combat scenarios around the room. The Empire faces increasing threats from enemies who have learned to counter our traditional tactics. Savage clan raiders adapt their strategies based on our documented responses. The Void Hunters study our military doctrine and develop specific countermeasures. We need unpredictability, Zekth added. Warriors who can achieve victory through methods our enemies cannot anticipate or prepare for. Marcus studied the tactical displays surrounding them. Each showed Empire forces engaged with various hostile entities across the galaxy. Most battles followed familiar patterns, deployment of superior technology and firepower to overwhelm enemy positions. Effective but predictable. What exactly are you asking me to do? Marcus said. Join our Special Operations Command, Lyrillon replied. Small unit tactics, deep reconnaissance, high-value target elimination, missions where conventional approaches have failed. The Empire's finest warriors have attempted these operations. Prism 79 added. Vorthak assault specialists, Etherian psychic infiltrators, hegemony siege masters. All have encountered situations where standard doctrine proved insufficient. Zekth leaned forward in his chair. We need someone who can accomplish objectives that others cannot. But first, we must understand your true capabilities. Earth's military records are heavily classified. What is your actual combat experience? Marcus was quiet for several seconds. His service record contained information that most human governments preferred to keep secret. I served with Terran Special Forces during the Frontier Wars. Anti-piracy operations mostly. Pirates, Prism 79's geometric form pulsed with what might have been skepticism. Our intelligence reports suggest the Frontier Wars involved more than simple criminal activity. Define piracy, Marcus said carefully. Lyral-On's psychic senses detected layers of hidden meaning in the humans' response. The frontier wars involved conflict with several organized military forces, rogue colonies that had declared independence from Earth's government. Some possessed advanced technology and professional armies. The Broken Chain Rebellion, Zekth said suddenly. Our databases contain fragments of information about human military operations against separatist forces. Highly classified, but our intelligence services occasionally intercept scattered reports. Marcus realized they already knew more than he'd expected. The rebels had external support, weapons, training, sometimes direct military assistance from species that wanted to see humanity divided and weakened. The Devourers, Prism 79 said with certainty. Parasitic entities that consume civilizations from within. They provided technology and tactical support to human rebel factions, among others. Marcus's expression hardened. The rebels weren't just criminals or political dissidents. Some of them had been changed, enhanced with alien biotechnology, programmed with foreign combat protocols. They were weapons aimed at human civilization. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Earth's frontier wars hadn't been a simple internal conflict. Humanity had faced external intervention by hostile alien forces, and had won decisively enough to achieve galactic recognition and Empire membership. "How many combat operations did you participate in?" Lyral-On asked gently. "Classified," Marcus replied automatically. Then after a pause, "Enough." Zekth pulled up a different set of files on his display. Empire intelligence estimates suggest the frontier wars involved over 200 separate military engagements across dozens of star systems. If you participated in a significant fraction of those operations, I did what was necessary to protect my people, Marcus said firmly. Prism 79's analysis algorithms processed the available data. Conservative estimates based on operational tempo and human military doctrine suggest individual soldiers in extended combat operations would encounter significant hostile casualties. The psychological profiles of such warriors often indicate what? Marcus's voice carried a warning tone. Adaptation to extreme violence, the crystalline being concluded. Humans who survive prolonged warfare develop cognitive modifications that allow them to function in environments where most sentient species would experience catastrophic mental breakdown. Lyral-On's psychic senses detected the depth of carefully controlled trauma in the human's mental patterns. Your species has remarkable psychological resilience, but that resilience comes at a cost. The cost is worth it if it keeps innocent people safe, Marcus said. Zekth reviewed additional files on his display. Empire Special Operations has attempted 17 major missions in the past 2 standard years. 12 ended in failure, with significant casualties among our finest warriors. The remaining 5 achieved partial success at best. Current threats include Savage Clan infiltration of core worlds, Void Hunter technology raids on research installations, and Devourer corruption of allied governments, Prism 79 added. Standard military responses have proven insufficient. We need someone who can succeed where others have failed, Lyral-On said. But we also need to understand the full extent of your capabilities. What you accomplished in the training arena was impressive, but real combat operations involve variables that no simulation can replicate. Marcus considered their offer carefully. Earth had joined the Galactic Empire seeking protection and opportunity among the stars. If the Empire faced threats that their conventional forces couldn't handle, then humanity's long-term security might depend on his success. "I'll need complete operational autonomy," he said finally. "No predetermined tactics, no standard protocols. I solve problems my way?" "Agreed," Zekth replied immediately. "What else?" "Direct communication with Earth Command. Some of the techniques I use require resources and support that only humans can provide." "Possible," Lyral-On said after a moment's consideration, "though such communications would be monitored for security purposes. And I want to know exactly what happened to the previous special operations missions that failed." Full reports, casualty assessments, enemy analysis. Prism 79's form pulsed with approval. Thorough preparation. A positive indicator for mission success probability. Commander Zekth stood and extended one of his 4 hands toward Marcus. "Welcome to Empire Special Operations Command, Operative Kane. Your first mission briefing will commence tomorrow." The next morning, Marcus reported to Special Operations Command headquarters deep within Station Nexus 7's secure levels. The facility was unlike anything he'd seen before, with corridors that seemed to bend through dimensions and rooms that existed in multiple gravitational orientations simultaneously. Empire technology had advanced far beyond human understanding in some areas. Coordinator Lyra waited in the main briefing chamber, accompanied by several species Marcus didn't recognize. The walls displayed tactical information about ongoing operations across the galaxy, most of which was heavily classified and automatically censored when his security clearance couldn't access specific details. Your first assignment, Lyra began without preamble, involves the recovery of stolen Empire technology from a Void Hunter facility. Previous attempts by conventional forces have failed catastrophically. The central holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional representation of a space station orbiting a dead star. The structure was massive, easily the size of a small moon, with irregular extensions that suggested organic growth rather than engineered construction. Harvester Station Omega-7, said a new voice. Marcus turned to see a Vorthak warrior even larger than Commander Zekth approaching the briefing table. I am War Leader Krathmek, overall commander of this operation. 3 of my finest assault teams have attempted to penetrate that facility. None returned. Marcus studied the station's configuration. What exactly are we trying to recover? Quantum displacement generators, Lyrellon replied. Technology that allows instantaneous transportation across galactic distances without the usual constraints of hyperspace navigation. The Void Hunters stole the prototypes from our research facility on Kepler Prime. The theft resulted in the deaths of over 2,000 researchers and security personnel. Krathmek added grimly. These devices in the wrong hands could destabilize the entire galactic balance of power. Tactical analyst Prism 79 materialized beside the display, his crystalline form reflecting the holographic light in complex patterns. Previous assault attempts followed standard doctrine. Heavy bombardment to disable defensive systems followed by direct assault with overwhelming force. Let me guess, Marcus said. The Void Hunters adapted to your tactics. Precisely. The geometric beings analysis algorithms processed multiple scenario matrices simultaneously. Each subsequent assault faced increasingly sophisticated defenses. The enemy appeared to anticipate every tactical decision before our forces could implement them. Marcus walked around the holographic station, studying its structure from multiple angles. What do you know about Void Hunter biology and psychology? They are parasitic entities that consume energy directly from living neural tissue, Lyrellon said. Highly intelligent, completely without empathy or moral constraints. They view other species as resources to be harvested. They adapt rapidly to new threats, Krathmek added. Each encounter teaches them more about our capabilities and limitations. But they're logical, Marcus observed. Predictably logical. They analyze threats using consistent parameters and respond with optimal solutions based on available data. Prism 79's form pulsed with interest. You believe their predictability can be exploited? Everything can be exploited if you understand the underlying patterns. Marcus pointed to specific sections of the station. These defensive emplacements follow mathematical optimization principles. Perfect coverage, no gaps, overwhelming firepower concentrated at approach vectors, which makes direct assault impossible. Krathmek said, only if you approach it like a direct assault. Marcus highlighted different areas of the station with gesture commands. What if we don't try to fight through their defenses? What if we make them come to us? The briefing room fell silent as the assembled officers processed this suggestion. Lyrellon's psychic abilities allowed her to sense the complexity of Marcus's tactical thinking, though she couldn't penetrate the specific details. Explain, she said simply. Marcus activated additional display functions, overlaying energy readings and structural analysis data onto the station image. Void Hunters are parasites. They need to feed on living neural energy to maintain their enhanced cognitive abilities. How long has this station been isolated from populated areas? Approximately 6 standard months, Prism 79 replied after accessing relevant databases. Since the theft occurred, they're hungry, Marcus concluded, probably desperate for fresh neural energy. What happens if we give them an irresistible target? Krathmek's mandibles clicked in confusion. You propose deliberately exposing our forces to capture? Not capture, infiltration. Marcus began sketching tactical diagrams in the holographic space. Void hunters consume neural tissue, but they also study it. They want to understand their prey's capabilities, learn their weaknesses. If we present them with apparently vulnerable targets, they'll try to capture rather than kill. Using ourselves as bait, Lyrillon said quietly. Using me as bait, Marcus corrected. Human neural patterns are probably unique in their databases. They'll want to study what makes humans different from other species. The assembled officers exchanged glances that conveyed serious concern. Prism 79's analytical processes identified multiple fatal flaws in the proposed strategy. Void hunter neural extraction procedures are invariably lethal, the crystalline being stated. Survival probability approaches 0. For most species, Marcus agreed, but humans have unusual resistance to psychic intrusion. Our mental defenses developed through millions of years of evolutionary pressure. Plus, I have experience with alien neural manipulation from the frontier wars. Krathmek leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the briefing table. Even assuming successful infiltration, how would you accomplish the primary objective? The quantum displacement generators are stored in the station's most secure areas. Marcus smiled grimly. I won't be going in alone. While the Void Hunters are distracted trying to crack open my brain, you'll have the perfect opportunity for a precision strike. The station's defensive systems remain fully operational, Lyrillon pointed out. Our assault forces would still face overwhelming opposition. Not if the defenses are targeting internal threats instead of external ones. Marcus highlighted the station's power distribution network. Void Hunter technology depends on centralized energy management. If someone were to cause problems with their internal systems while they're trying to perform neural extraction, understanding dawned on several faces around the briefing table. Prism 79's form brightened as his analysis algorithms identified the tactical potential. Cascading system failures, the crystalline being said. Internal sabotage during a critical procedure would force the Void Hunters to divide their attention between multiple crisis situations. Exactly. They're logical, which means they prioritize threats based on mathematical analysis. But humans specialize in creating problems that can't be solved through logic alone. Krathmek studied the proposed infiltration route with growing interest. The approach vector would need to appear accidental. Perhaps a damaged courier vessel, life support failing, crew desperate for rescue. I can play that part, Marcus said. Distressed pilot, equipment failure, willing to surrender in exchange for medical assistance. Void Hunters are arrogant enough to believe they can extract information from any captured prisoner. Lyrillon's psychic senses detected layers of determined resolve beneath Marcus's calm exterior. The neural extraction process is extraordinarily painful. Most subjects experience complete psychological breakdown within minutes. I've survived worse, Marcus replied simply. Have you? Krathmek's optical sensors focused intently on the human. Our intelligence reports about the frontier wars remain incomplete. What exactly did you encounter during those operations? Marcus was quiet for several moments, accessing memories he preferred to keep buried. The Devourers didn't just provide technology to the rebel forces. They experimented on human prisoners, trying to understand how our species thinks and fights. Some of us were recovered alive. You underwent alien neural manipulation and survived, Prism 79 stated. It wasn't a question. Multiple times. The experience taught me how to compartmentalize my mind, hide critical information in mental areas that most aliens can't access. Human consciousness has layers that we don't fully understand ourselves. Lyrillon's psychic abilities confirmed the truth of his statements, though she could sense vast regions of the human's mind that remained completely inaccessible to her enhanced senses. Very well, Krathmek said finally. We will attempt this infiltration strategy, but I want backup protocols in place. If the primary mission fails, we implement maximum force contingency. Agreed, Marcus replied, but I don't think it will come to that. The Void Hunters are about to learn something important about humans, which is, Marcus's expression became coldly determined, that we're much more dangerous than we look. 3 days later, Marcus piloted a damaged courier vessel toward Harvester Station Omega-7. The small ship had been carefully sabotaged to appear genuinely distressed, with life support systems failing and navigation equipment producing erratic readings. To external sensors, it would look like a desperate pilot seeking emergency assistance. The Void Hunter station loomed ahead, its organic-looking superstructure pulsing with dark energy. Weapon emplacements tracked the approaching vessel but didn't fire. The station's inhabitants were curious about this unexpected visitor. "This is Courier Vessel Meridian calling any station." Marcus transmitted on standard emergency frequencies. "Life support critical, navigation offline. Requesting immediate assistance." The response came in a voice that sounded like grinding metal mixed with organic whispers. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space. Prepare for boarding and inspection." Docking clamps seized the courier ship and drew it into one of the station's many hangar bays. Marcus shut down his remaining systems and waited. Through the viewports, he could see void hunters moving through the docking facility. They looked like living shadows wearing technological enhancement suits, their true forms only partially visible beneath layers of adaptive armor. The airlock cycled, and 3 void hunters entered his vessel. Their leader was larger than the others, with additional neural interface ports along its skull ridges. When it spoke, Marcus could feel alien thoughts pressing against his mental defenses. "Human," the creature said with obvious interest. "Your species is new to this region. We have questions." Marcus allowed himself to appear frightened and confused. "I'm just a courier pilot. My navigation system malfunctioned during a routine hyperspace jump. I don't know anything about restricted space." The Void Hunter's optical sensors glowed brighter as it studied the human. "Curious. Your neural patterns are unlike the standard templates in our databases. You will come with us for detailed examination." They escorted Marcus through corridors that seemed to shift and bend around them. The station's interior was a fusion of advanced technology and organic growth, with walls that pulsed like living tissue and floors that felt slightly warm underfoot. Other captured beings could be seen in containment cells along the way, though most appeared comatose or worse. The neural extraction chamber was a sphere of polished metal surrounded by complex machinery. Marcus was secured to a chair in the center, while the Void Hunters activated their equipment. Energy patterns began flowing around him as scanners probed his brain structure. "Fascinating," said the lead researcher, a being that appeared more machine than organic. "Human consciousness operates on multiple simultaneous levels. Most species think in linear patterns that we can easily map and manipulate, but your neural architecture defies classification." Marcus forced himself to remain calm as alien probes invaded his mind. The sensation was like icy needles pushing through his thoughts, searching for memories and knowledge. But years of conditioning, from his encounters with Devourer technology, allowed him to compartmentalize his awareness, hiding critical information in mental spaces the Void Hunters couldn't access. "Curious resistance," the researcher muttered. "Your species possesses natural psychic defenses we have not encountered before. This will require a more intensive approach." The extraction machinery powered up to higher levels, sending waves of agony through Marcus's nervous system. Most beings would have broken completely under such assault, but he had endured similar torture during the frontier wars. His mind retreated to trained defensive positions while his body endured the pain. Meanwhile, hidden sensors in his equipment were transmitting detailed information about the station's internal systems to War Leader Krathmek's assault force. The Void Hunters were so focused on their prize that they failed to notice the subtle data streams flowing from their prisoner's seemingly disabled courier ship. "Remarkable," said another researcher. "The subject maintains cognitive coherence, despite neural intrusion at levels that should cause complete cerebral shutdown. How is this possible?" "Unknown. But observe these memory fragments we have managed to extract." Holographic displays showed scattered images from Marcus's combat experience. Battles with Devourer-enhanced rebels, close quarters combat in impossible conditions, survival scenarios that would destroy most sentient beings. The lead researcher's optical sensors flared with excitement. "This creature has extensive experience with lethal conflict. The neural pathways show adaptation to extreme violence that exceeds our theoretical models." Marcus allowed them to see carefully selected memories while hiding the truly important information. They were learning about human combat capabilities, but not about the assault force that was currently approaching their station under stealth protocols. "Increase extraction intensity," the lead researcher ordered. "We must access the deeper memory structures." The pain became overwhelming as the machinery reached maximum power output. Through the agony, Marcus began implementing the sabotage protocols he'd memorized during the mission briefing. His enhanced neural resistance wasn't just defensive, it allowed him to push back against the alien technology, introducing chaotic variables into their carefully controlled systems. "Warning," announced an automated voice throughout the station. "Neural extraction chamber experiencing cascade resonance failure. Containment breach imminent." The researchers around Marcus began operating emergency controls as their equipment started malfunctioning. Energy discharges arced between neural interface nodes while holographic displays flickered with corrupted data. "Impossible," said the lead researcher. "The subject is somehow interfacing directly with our systems. Human neural patterns should not be compatible with our technology." Marcus smiled through the pain. "You wanted to learn about humans," he said. "Here's lesson 1. We don't break the way you expect." The extraction chamber's containment field collapsed, freeing Marcus from his restraints. Before the Void Hunters could react, he grabbed one of their neural interface devices and pressed it directly against his temple. Instead of allowing the aliens to drain his thoughts, he reversed the process and began flooding their systems with human consciousness patterns. The effect was catastrophic. Void Hunter technology was designed to process orderly, logical thought patterns. Human consciousness was chaotic, emotional, filled with contradictions and irrational impulses that their systems couldn't parse. The neural feedback cascaded through the station's interconnected networks, causing failures throughout multiple decks. "Emergency protocols activated," the automated voice announced. "Station-wide systems failure. All personnel report to emergency stations." Through the chaos, Marcus heard the distinctive sound of Empire assault shuttles breaching the station's hull. Krathmek's forces were taking advantage of the confusion to target the quantum displacement generators, while the Void Hunters were distracted by internal crisis. "You," the lead researcher snarled, raising a weapon toward Marcus. "What have you done?" Marcus ducked behind the malfunctioning neural extraction equipment. "Something your logical minds didn't consider," he called back. "Humans don't just adapt to enemy technology. We turn it against you." Energy blasts scorched the chamber as the Void Hunters tried to eliminate him, but their aim was compromised by the continuing system failures. Marcus used the damaged equipment as cover while accessing the chamber's maintenance systems. His training with alien technology during the Frontier Wars served him well as he identified critical control nodes. "Structural integrity compromised. In sections 7 through 12, the automated voice reported. "Evacuation recommended." The station shuddered as Krathmek's assault teams reached their primary objectives. Explosions echoed through the corridors as the quantum displacement generators were either recovered or destroyed to prevent their misuse. Marcus fought his way out of the neural extraction chamber, using captured Void Hunter weapons against their former owners. The aliens were skilled fighters, but they were accustomed to overwhelming technological advantages. In close quarters, combat against an opponent who understood their equipment as well as they did, their superiority diminished rapidly. "Target secured," came Krathmek's voice over the stolen communicator Marcus had acquired. "Primary objectives achieved. Requesting immediate extraction." Marcus made his way toward the designated rendezvous point, fighting through corridors filled with emergency lighting and disabled security systems. The Void Hunters were attempting to organize a coordinated response, but their command structure had been disrupted by the cascade failures he'd introduced into their networks. He reached the extraction point just as Empire assault shuttles arrived to collect the strike teams. War leader Krathmek himself was leading the withdrawal, carrying secured containers that presumably held the recovered quantum displacement technology. "Operative Kane," the Vorthak commander said, as Marcus boarded the shuttle. "Mission status? Complete." "Success," Marcus replied, collapsing into a seat as exhaustion finally caught up with him. The Void Hunters learned something about humans today. Which was? Marcus looked back at the dying station through the shuttle's viewports. That we're not prey. We're predators who've learned to look like prey. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood before the Empire High Command in the most secure briefing chamber on Station Nexus 7. The room contained representatives from every major species in the Galactic Alliance, their various forms creating a tapestry of alien diversity that still amazed him after months among the stars. Fleet Admiral Vexathara, Supreme Commander of all Empire military forces, studied Marcus with her 6 optical sensors. The ancient hegemony leader had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries, and her experience showed in every calculated movement. The Omega-7 operation succeeded beyond our most optimistic projections, she announced to the assembled command staff. Not only were the quantum displacement generators recovered intact, but intelligence gathered from the Void Hunter facility has provided unprecedented insight into enemy capabilities. Coordinator Lyral An activated holographic displays showing the mission's aftermath. Harvester Station Omega-7 was completely abandoned following the operation. Void Hunter forces evacuated all personnel and valuable resources before self-destructing the facility. This represents the first time in recorded history that this enemy has voluntarily withdrawn from an established position. War leader Krathmek stepped forward, his massive frame commanding attention. Analysis of captured Void Hunter technology reveals critical vulnerabilities in their neural interface systems. Human consciousness patterns proved incompatible with their extraction methods, causing cascade failures throughout their networks. Marcus remained silent as the various commanders discussed the implications of his mission. The success had generated considerable interest in human capabilities, but it had also raised uncomfortable questions about the true extent of his combat experience. Fleet Admiral Vexathara turned her attention directly to Marcus. Operative Kane, your performance has exceeded all expectations. However, certain aspects of the mission report require clarification. What aspects? Marcus asked, though he suspected where this was heading. Tactical Analyst Prism 79 materialized beside the central display. Your resistance to Void Hunter neural extraction suggests previous exposure to similar technology. Empire intelligence services have been investigating the classified aspects of Earth's frontier wars. We've discovered some disturbing information, Lyral An added gently. The conflict Earth described as anti-piracy operations involved significantly more violence than your government initially reported. Marcus felt the weight of multiple alien gazes focused on him. The frontier wars are classified Earth military operations. I'm not authorized to discuss specific details. Perhaps not, Fleet Admiral Vexathara said, but our intelligence analysis indicates the scope of those conflicts was enormous. Conservative estimates suggest human casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Enemy casualties likely exceeded 10 million across all theaters of operation. The briefing chamber fell silent. Most species in the Galactic Empire had achieved spaceflight through cooperative technological development and peaceful expansion. Warfare on the scale being described was almost incomprehensible to them. Krathmek's mandibles clicked with what might have been respect. If accurate, these numbers indicate that humans have more extensive combat experience than any species currently serving in Empire forces. That's not possible, objected a crystalline collective representative. Our mathematical models indicate that civilizations experiencing such catastrophic losses typically collapse or fragment beyond recovery. Unless they win, Marcus said quietly. Decisively enough to end the threat permanently. The Devourers, Lyral An said suddenly. Empire records show they were active in human space during the relevant time period. Then all activity ceased approximately 18 standard months ago. They ceased because they're dead, Marcus replied. All of them. The implications of this statement created a ripple of shock throughout the assembled commanders. The Devourers were considered one of the most dangerous threats in known space. Parasitic entities that had consumed dozens of civilizations over millennia. The idea that a single species had eliminated them entirely was staggering. Fleet Admiral Vexathara leaned forward in her command throne. Operative Kane, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I need you to answer honestly. How many enemies have you personally killed in combat? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The question had been inevitable since his arrival in Empire space, but he'd hoped to avoid discussing the specifics. I don't keep count. Estimate, she pressed. Thousands, Marcus said finally. Maybe more. After a certain point, the numbers stopped meaning anything. The silence that followed was profound. Even war leader Krathmek, who came from a warrior culture that valued combat prowess, seemed stunned by the casual way Marcus delivered this information. Thousands, repeated Prism 79. Our analysis indicates that individual warriors rarely survive more than dozens of combat encounters before psychological trauma renders them ineffective. Humans are different, Marcus said. We adapt to things that would break other species, but the adaptation comes at a cost. Lyralan's psychic senses detected the carefully controlled trauma underlying Marcus's calm exterior. You're carrying psychological damage that would cripple most beings. How do you continue to function? Training, conditioning, and the knowledge that if I don't function, innocent people die. Marcus met her gaze steadily. The Empire is facing threats that conventional forces can't handle. You need soldiers who can win fights that others can't. What we need, Fleet Admiral Vexithara said carefully, is to understand what we're dealing with. If humans possess combat capabilities that exceed our current models, then our strategic planning must be adjusted accordingly. Krathmek activated additional displays showing ongoing Empire military operations. Current threats include 17 active Savage Clan raiding fleets, 43 confirmed Void Hunter facilities, and unknown numbers of Devourer survivors operating in the outer systems. Wait, Marcus interrupted. Devourer survivors? Our intelligence reports suggest that some Devourer entities escaped Earth's extermination campaigns, Lyralan explained. They appear to be establishing new operations in unexplored regions of the galaxy. Marcus's expression became coldly determined. That's impossible. We made sure none of them escaped. You personally confirmed the elimination of all Devourer forces? Prism 79 asked. Every last one. Marcus's voice carried absolute certainty. But if some survived and are rebuilding, then we have a problem. The Empire isn't equipped to fight Devourers using conventional tactics. Which brings us to the purpose of this briefing, Fleet Admiral Vexithara said. Empire High Command is establishing a new Special Operations Division, specifically designed to handle threats that conventional forces cannot address. You will command this unit, Command? Marcus looked around the room at the assembled alien officers. I'm just one human. You have entire species with military traditions spanning millennia. But they haven't fought the enemies we're facing, Krathmek pointed out. You have. And you've won. Lyralan stepped forward. The new division will have unprecedented operational authority. No predetermined tactics, no standard protocols. You solve problems using whatever methods prove effective. What's the catch? Marcus asked. Because there was always a catch. Fleet Admiral Vexithara's optical sensors focused intently on him. You tell us everything. Complete mission reports, detailed tactical analysis, full disclosure of human combat capabilities. No more classified information. Marcus considered this carefully. Earth's government had wanted to maintain secrecy about the true scope of the frontier wars. But if the Devourers were rebuilding, then the Empire needed to understand what they were really facing. Agreed, he said finally. But I have conditions of my own. Which are? I select my own team. Human volunteers from Earth's Special Forces, with full disclosure about what they're signing up for. Acceptable. Complete intelligence sharing. I need to know everything the Empire knows about current threats. Especially any information about Devourer survivors. Agreed. And if we encounter Devourers in the field, my teams handle them according to human protocols. No questions asked, no interference. Fleet Admiral Vexithara studied him for several seconds before responding. What exactly are human protocols for dealing with Devourers? Marcus's smile held no warmth whatsoever. Complete extermination. No prisoners, no negotiation, no mercy. When humans fight Devourers, only one species walks away. The assembled commanders exchanged glances that conveyed a mixture of respect and concern. They had invited a predator into their ranks, and were only now beginning to understand what that truly meant. Very well, Fleet Admiral Vexithara said finally. Welcome to Empire Special Operations Command, Director Kane. Try not to frighten our allies too badly. Marcus nodded. I'll do my best. But the enemies we're facing don't respond to anything except overwhelming force. The Empire's about to learn what humans do when civilized solutions aren't enough.